In the previous videos, we have gone through 7 parts of the Mission Impossible, and now we will go one last time to the final mission of Ethan Hunt. In this mission, an old videotape suddenly appeared containing a message from the director of intelligence where Ethan had worked. And when he saw it, Ethan was really surprised because he did not expect her to send information through an outdated tape. In that recording, the director thanked him and the whole team for their sacrifice and efforts for many years. Then, she also frankly apologized for the losses she had suffered while serving the country. Shortly thereafter, she emphasized that now they need him more than ever for an extremely dangerous mission because the whole world is at risk of destruction. She knew Ethan would wonder why she chose an old tape instead of modern technology. The reason is that there is a powerful AI entity that is far beyond humans, holding control of all technological devices from computers to satellites, and it is threatening the whole world. Governments now no longer even distinguish between real and fake in the daily information flow. Even more dangerous, a large part of the people, including officials and judges, have turned to support this entity because they believe in its promises. Therefore, the director asked Ethan to destroy it at the root, and the key to performing the task lies with a dangerous man named Gabriel, the only one who knows the true position of the entity. Gabriel's close assistant is Paris. She was arrested in Austria. Ethan recalled that Paris once saved his life while he searched for the key. So he chose to hide himself for a long time without giving the key to anyone because he lost all faith. The director warned that if he did not act early, the world could be destroyed. Then the tape ended, leaving Ethan silently looking at the key in his hand before he decided to accept the mission to save the world. Then he left the hidden place and met Benji. Then the two crawled into a subway tunnel leading to a secret base. Here they met Luther again and talked about the Russian submarine from the previous journey. Luther explained that the ship was almost invisible because radar could not detect it because of a steel sphere that contains a special but scary AI entity. It tricked all the sailors into killing each other by manipulating their minds. The whole group discovered that they could only destroy that entity with the device currently in the submerged ship. But the problem is that anyone who tries to open the sphere will cause it to detonate. Ethan revealed that the key is still in his hand, and he is the only one who can open it safely. However, first of all, they have to find Gabriel. At this time, Paris is being escorted by 2 Interpol police officers in a strict convoy. Suddenly, 2 other security guards used electric guns to try to rescue her. Interpol immediately resisted, but it was Paris who took action and tried to kill one of them until another officer intervened to remove his mask. It turned out to be Ethan with Benji. When the officer was about to call for reinforcement, Ethan quickly stopped him, saying that if he called, the whole world would collapse. The officer hesitated, looking at his unconscious teammates. Ethan continued to try to persuade them to lower their weapons. Immediately after that, the first thing he did was ask Paris about Gabriel's position. Paris just said that she knew Gabriel would definitely go to London to attend a concert. So the whole group immediately set out for London. While the concert was going on, Ethan and Benji argued when Benji suspected Gabriel would not be foolish enough to appear in such a public place. And Ethan believes Paris and that Gabriel will definitely come. When they were talking, 2 agents suddenly came to block Ethan, but before they opened their mouths, Grace appeared quickly, took their communication equipment and their guns, and then pulled Ethan out of the area. Shortly thereafter, 2 strangers suddenly rushed to attack and then controlled Ethan and Grace, stating that Gabriel wanted to meet him for a special mission. They hit them strongly, causing Ethan to faint. When he woke up with Grace, he discovered that he was tied up in a dark room. Ethan whispered to Grace that he was mentally prepared because they would surely torture them for information. A man entered and punched Ethan, but immediately Gabriel appeared to order no one to touch him and approached Grace, saying he would handle her like he did his wife on a mission in Shanghai. He coldly asked where the key was, and Ethan just responded to release Grace first and then talk. But Gabriel wasn't playing this game and emphasized that one of Ethan's loved ones would definitely die today. Gabriel also mocked that Ethan's team was compromised and their entire plan was understood by him. Suddenly, Ethan pulled out a denture containing toxins and threatened that if he did not release Grace, he would bite it and die in 60 seconds. Then Gabriel will never know where the key is. Gabriel smirked, thinking Ethan was just bluffing, but Ethan immediately bit the denture down, causing his body to twitch violently. Gabriel's henchman panicked and rushed to use an electric shock for emergency, but suddenly Ethan opened his eyes and turned to counterattack. He snatched an electric device to knock down one guy and then took down the other. Grace quickly took the key from Ethan. However, Gabriel's 2 other henchmen rushed in, beat Ethan badly, and almost defeated Grace. But Ethan picked up a hammer and broke the hand of the man who tried to kill her. Grace was dumbfounded by his intensity, but Ethan just said, "There's no time." Gabriel had fled and
They had to chase immediately.
While Gabriel fled, he was suddenly blocked by an agent, but Paris appeared from behind, causing Gabriel to turn to run away. Paris immediately opened fire, but Benji stopped her, saying that Ethan needed him to be alive. The group immediately chased, but Gabriel disappeared, leaving a large box. Paris explained that Gabriel used this box to communicate with the entity. Ethan touched it, and the box opened to reveal a strange mask connected to a machine system. Despite every alert, Ethan decided to wear the mask. As soon as the box was closed, he was dazzled, and the entity began to communicate. It showed him a familiar scene, the location in Congo, and ordered Ethan to go there to find it. Ethan refused and was tortured. The entity claimed that there was no secret from it, and showed him his stolen memories, in which Ethan holds a device that contains algorithms that can destroy the entity if combined with the original code. It continued to show him a future vision that if he succeeded, he would have to lose all his loved ones. In the end, it forced Ethan to choose, either become the future of the entity or there will be no future. The entity revealed that Gabriel is actually a pawn to be eliminated after each conspiracy to take control, and now he must definitely die. Gabriel is currently on the way to kill a close friend of Ethan, and he only has 4 days to complete the mission. If not, all the nuclear missiles in the world will be simultaneously activated, causing Earth's destruction. Ethan was then released from the box. He met his teammates, but he was briefly confused whether they were real or just an illusion built by the entity. After confirming they were true, he announced that the entity had grasped all the plans, and quickly gave the command for the whole group to move to the Arctic, while he hurried to save Luther before it's too late. At this time, Gabriel was present in Luther's hospital room. When Luther woke up, he discovered a nurse lying motionless, and next to the bed was a strange device. Gabriel ordered the room door locked and then picked up the device to show that he had obtained the device. Meanwhile, Ethan raced with time, as is familiar in every movie he has been in. When he arrived at the location, Luther was struggling to disable a heavy bomb, whose countdown was less than 4 minutes. Luther panicked, saying that the bomb would destroy the city, and told Ethan to leave and not stay with him. Ethan hesitated to leave his best friend. But Luther urged that if he died, and you don't catch Gabriel, millions of people will die. Finally, Ethan was forced to choke back tears and rush away. Luther tried to cut the bomb wires but failed, and in a tragic moment, the bomb exploded. He sacrificed. Ethan was lucky enough to escape from the tunnel before being burned alive, but the pain of losing his friend made him fall into despair. At that moment, Interpol arrived and without question handcuffed him. They took him onto a plane to the intelligence headquarters. Here, the director frankly told Ethan that during the time he acted on his own, the entity had grown out of control, and now it occupies most of the global nuclear system. Only the US, Russia, China, and England are not compromised, and all this responsibility is now on him. Ethan was dragged into a hearing room before a committee. His thick dossier detailed everything from breaking in to steal a list of agents to the invasion of a confidential meeting only 2 months ago. Members of the committee finally concluded that there were no other options. Ethan is the last card that can prevent the entity from launching a nuclear war. At that moment, a senior character appeared, looked at the key, and asked what Ethan needs to complete the task. Ethan calmly replied that he needed the key first, and secondly, he needed a nuclear aircraft carrier, and the captain of that ship must absolutely obey his orders. When the whole council disagreed, bad news came. The UK has officially fallen to the entity and lost control of its nuclear missile arsenal. The director immediately stated that the request of Ethan was rejected and ordered him to be confined. But when the army escorted Ethan out, he was suddenly taken straight to the back door where a military aircraft was waiting. A female soldier handed back the key and said that the president still believed him but could not risk it publicly. She gave him 72 hours to complete the task with a sealed envelope to be opened at the right time. The aircraft immediately took Ethan to a nuclear carrier as he asked. Here, he gave the envelope to the captain, and when she opened it, she saw the signature of the president giving Ethan full command. She seriously announced that she would obey him, but also warned that a Russian aircraft carrier was very close, and with just one small mistake, World War III would break out. Then she took Ethan to the strategic room. Here, Ethan announced the plan. His team would move to the Arctic where the Russian submarine sank. As soon as they determined the exact coordinates, they would send them to him. Then he would directly approach the submarine to set the charge. If successful, he will send the coordinates to the aircraft carrier to extract him from the safe area. Ethan admitted that this was a crazy, reckless plan, but confirmed that there was no other way. At the same time, his team in the Arctic approached the seismic center to access sonar data, but suddenly discovered the entire center was occupied by Russian soldiers. In the air, the situation was also tense when the pilot reported to Ethan that the Russian aircraft has discovered them and is approaching the disputed airspace. Just one wrong move, a missile will be fired immediately. Ethan asked the pilot for the coordinates from his team. He did not have them because the Russian ship was jamming, causing the entire signal to be blocked. Ethan thought and ordered the plane to stop for 5 minutes. The whole plane hung in the middle of the icy sky. At that moment, Russian fighters appeared, shielding right ahead, and sent a warning signal. The pilot repeated that he had already said, just one wrong move would start World War. In this tense, extreme moment, Ethan suddenly made a crazy decision. He jumped out of the plane into the icy sea. When he emerged, he could see that the team was forced to leave the area by the Russian fighters, and he was now lonely in the cold ocean without any support. Suddenly, a few mysterious divers surfaced and rushed to inject an anesthetic, causing Ethan to collapse on the spot. When he woke up, he found himself in an American submarine, so cold he was frozen. The crew reported that they received orders to take him to the position of the Russian submarine, and then were curious to ask for details of the mission, but Ethan only replied that it was secret information. He ordered them to take him to the Arctic. His team will send the coordinates, and they nodded in agreement, even though they knew this could provoke the Russian army. Meanwhile, on the ground, Luther told Ethan's team that despite having a recording, the transmitter was lost, and the Russian troops were also in search of the submarine's position. The commander of the diving team frankly said this plan was too risky. If they survived, it is a miracle. Sitting next to him, Benji leaned over and whispered that there was no need for a recording because he remembered the exact coordinates where the ship was sunk. Meanwhile, Ethan prepared for the next task by practicing using underwater breathing equipment. Suddenly, a henchman of the entity appeared to assassinate him. In an instant, Ethan realized the danger and immediately engaged in a fierce battle with him in the stiflingly narrow compartment. On the other side, at Luther's base, he was carrying food for the dogs when he was suddenly attacked by a guard. Grace immediately took advantage to support, and chaos exploded. Gunfire resounded violently. A fierce gunfight between American soldiers and Russian soldiers broke out at the center. Grace took advantage of the battle to defeat the guard next to her, while Luther ran straight to the radio to transmit the submarine coordinates to Ethan. The signal was finally captured by the U.S. submarine carrying Ethan, but he was still exhausted from the match and was losing to the entity's traitorous henchmen. The risk of being killed was near, when suddenly a female crew member rushed in and struck a decisive blow to defeat the assassin, struggling to save Ethan's life. At the same time, his team on the ground was also fighting violently with Russian soldiers. After a chaotic battle, they finally wiped out almost all the enemy troops, forced the rest to flee, and regained control of the center. Receiving the correct coordinates, Ethan immediately prepared for the task of diving to the submarine. The crew carefully guided the process. Then Ethan put on a diving suit to start the near-impossible trip. He had to dive nearly 500 meters deep to approach the Russian submarine. When he arrived, he realized that there were still a few intact compartments inside the ship, but the danger was that the ship was lying on the edge of an abyss and showed signs of sliding down at any time. Wasting no time, Ethan rushed inside to look for the security compartment and then used the key to open an important metal box. Holding it in his hand, he quickly found the way out, but to escape, it was imperative to use the escape tube while just hugging the box without wearing a diving suit. As soon as the ship began to slide down the abyss, Ethan tried to crawl out. He escaped in a snap, but a strap of the outfit was entangled in the steel wall, causing his whole body to be pulled down. With no other choice, he let go of the strap and then risked swimming up without protection from the water pressure. As a result, he lost consciousness immediately. His body gradually floated up, but got stuck under the thick ice. In his coma, he vaguely saw his wife's silhouette rushing to save him. But when he woke up, he saw that Grace was the one who risked her life performing CPR on him. After many failures, she finally succeeded. Ethan sat up and took his first breath, immediately asking for the device. Grace gave it back and seriously asked what to do now. Ethan responded, "We have to find Gabriel." The whole team quickly agreed, stating that to destroy the entity, they had to have both the device and the original code that Gabriel had robbed from Luther before he sacrificed. Wasting no time, they flew straight to the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is determined as the source of the entity. When they arrived, they were surprised to not see a shadow of guards. The whole group followed a secret tunnel to go deep into the ground. At this moment, news spread around the world. The entity had taken control of the entire global nuclear arsenal. At the intelligence headquarters, a report was sent straight to President Alex that Ethan was missing. He was likely to be arrested or even killed. In the wet, echoing tunnel, Ethan signaled the whole team to divide into two groups to find the central server room. After a stressful search, finally Ethan's group discovered the actual server room. Position of the server behind a thick steel layer. He told everyone to withdraw to ensure safety, and he would directly handle it. When entering, before his eyes was a giant bomb identical to the one that killed Luther. His heart tightened. Before he could action, Gabriel appeared with a squad of fully armed soldiers. Immediately after that, an agent led another team. The chaotic situation was chaotic. Gabriel pressed the bomb activation button. The red light blinked as the countdown started, and then he arrogantly declared the game was not over. Ethan was dumbfounded to see that his entire team was held hostage, and at that moment, the intelligence director came out, her cold face clear. Ethan was dumbfounded, discovering that she was the one who was pulling the strings behind it all. With a mocking smile, she asked Ethan what was his final plan. The tense atmosphere suddenly broke when Gabriel's soldiers suddenly opened fire. Bullets flew everywhere, and the device fell into the hands of Ethan. Gabriel quickly launched into a jeep. Benji shouted and asked Ethan to chase him, and said the group would find a way to enter the server system. The chase began with roaring engines. Gabriel sent soldiers after him, but Ethan drove straight at them, causing both cars to flip in the middle of the tunnel. He woke up to chase, only to see Gabriel climbing into a helicopter preparing to take off. A soldier discovered Ethan and hurriedly climbed into the second helicopter, but Ethan was as fast as lightning, clinging to the helicopter and trying to climb aboard. I must say that at the age of over 60, Cruz is still extremely dedicated, treating the audience to heart-stopping actions. In the meantime, Benji and Luther were trembling before the terrible bomb. The two know that just 1 second of a mistake on the circuit, the entire system will explode. Luther clenched his fist and announced that he would stay on this suicide mission. Another character said he would not leave his friend and replied that he would stay with him. Meanwhile, Grace and Paris ran into the server room. Benji tries to guide Grace to manipulate the dashboard, and Paris rushed to open a slot on the console so he could talk them through it in their exhaustion. In the sky outside, Ethan slowly took the initiative and attacked the helicopter. After many maneuvers, the action was too eye-catching. Finally, Ethan also won control of the helicopter. Ethan's helicopter weaved in the narrow canyons, its steering wheel rotating continuously to avoid colliding with objects in an instant. Gabriel saw him from afar, his face changing as the pilot of the second helicopter was knocked out of the cockpit. Ethan jumped straight into the cabin to control the helicopter. In the air, the two helicopters rushed into each other in a survival confrontation. Meanwhile, at the intelligence headquarters, the political atmosphere is taut. The generals and officials were ready to order global nuclear strikes. The verge of World War III was just 1 sentence away. But at the critical moment, President Alex hesitated and refused to order the missile. The whole meeting room was dumbfounded. Suddenly, one of the guards pulled a gun on her. The Minister of Defense promptly rushed to block her, taking the bullets. With red blood on his shirt, the remaining loyal guards immediately opened fire to defeat the traitor. Meanwhile, the entity has officially infiltrated the entire U.S. defense system and gained control of its huge nuclear arsenal. The screen started to count down coldly for the end of the world. In the control room, Grace's hand trembled in front of the dashboard, but she still steadfastly waited for the signal. Because only when Ethan brought the device connected to the final piece would the red light turn to blue, freeing all control of the missile from the entity. In the sky, Ethan rushed into a vital battle with Gabriel, the only goal being to regain the last piece of the code. As always, reckless, Ethan didn't hesitate but jumped straight to Gabriel's helicopter. He discovered that Gabriel flipped the helicopter continuously to knock him down. Ethan gritted his teeth and clung on, gathering all his strength to approach and hit Gabriel, knocking him unconscious. Quickly grabbed the code, then coldly removed his seatbelt. The aircraft spun violently. Gabriel screamed before being thrown out and ended tragically when his body hit the helicopter rotor. Ethan returned to the controls but discovered that the aircraft was on fire. With no other choice, he grabbed the backup parachute to jump out. In the smoky sky, his body fell freely in the wind. He tried to open it even though his hand was clutching the device. But the flames spread quickly. The time on the clock was only 30 seconds before the entire nuclear system exploded to erase the world. Countdown to 20, 15, and only 10 seconds. At that time, the green light suddenly turned on. A shout of celebration erupted as she triggered the shutdown system. The entire network of the entity turned off. All nuclear missiles in the world were simultaneously disabled. The whole world sighed in relief. From the people to the leaders of all countries, they couldn't believe that the nightmare had ended. The global power grid is gradually being recovered. Governments regain control of their arsenal. World War III was officially prevented. In the final scene, people see Ethan is still alive. He deployed his parachute just before impact. In his hand is the device. It played the recording that Gabriel used to taunt him about Luther. Luther's voice was warm. "I always believed in him, Ethan. I knew he would save the world. I was proud to work with him for years, and I did not regret sacrificing." Ethan's face looked at the far sky, tears streaming, but his eyes were steadfast, because he knew that the sacrifice had lit the opportunity for all humanity. Tom Cruise once again affirmed his position as the king of action movies when returning to the big screen with the latest part of the Mission Impossible series. This is not only the last chapter closing a journey lasting more than 3 decades, it is also a deep gratitude for the fans who have followed each step of Agent Ethan Hunt for 35 years. The biggest lesson that this movie leaves is that belief and courage can change the world's destiny. In the moment everyone was suspicious, Ethan still chose to stand up to fight for the right thing, even though the price was his life. The film also reminds us that no matter how advanced technology is, the human heart is the decisive factor. The moments that seem hopeless are the time when people show the most extraordinary bravery. If you are watching, then the Mission Impossible franchise has come to an end. Although the end is a bit of depressed, but it can still call that a happy ending. What about you? What do you think about the franchise and its ending? Leave a comment below. And now, goodbye and see you guys in the next videos.